Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Watier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Watier, and I'm here as always with my good friend and colleague Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey Scott, how are you?
Doing fantastic, my friend. Really excited. I know I usually just say I'm excited, but I'm really excited about today's conversation.
Yeah.
We are going to be talking about the dreaded plateau.
Oh, man.
The fasting plateau.
Mm-hmm.
So why you're stuck in three different buckets: behavioral, biological, and life logistical plateaus.
Ooh.
We're going to break them down. We've never done this before. We've compartmentalized them, and then we're going to give you a resource, our fasting persona quiz, that will deliver real-time action steps based on which one of these buckets is the main driver of your current plateau. So
Nice.
If you are not at a current plateau, don't worry. It's coming, not if, but when, because on a fat loss journey, that is part of the process. We need to learn to embrace it, work through it, and not see it as a negative, but a positive that we can learn through. So if you are new to the Fasting Podcast, welcome in. If you want to head back to episode 0 and episode 1, give it a listen. It'll give you a little bit of insight into Tommy's life and my life and how it was transformed through the tried and true art of fasting, which created the Fasting for Life podcast and our challenges and our resources and all the things that we do week in and week out. Long-term listeners, current or recent or upcoming plateauers in the fasting lifestyle, this episode is for you too. We're excited. I don't know why we've never talked about it in this way, but we are continually trying to come up with new creative ways to make this customized and personalized to you so you can get the desired long-term results that you want, reach your forever weight, increase that quality of life, and just once and for all say, I have a plan that works for me. So Tommy, like I said, super excited about today. Let's give a shout out before we dive in.
Heck yeah. So over on Spotify, Shelly S.Y. said, this is an absolute game changer for me. So she's specifically talking about episode 311, which was...
so many shout outs to that episode lately.
I know, right? So like why you keep falling off. This is an absolute game changer for me. I tend to be an all or nothing person, which is causing me grief on my health journey. So I already know what my perfect health day looks like, but now I'm going to create my floor day as well. Thank you so much. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, and she said, thank you guys. I love this. So we're really excited that it's resonating with you, because this is something that, especially around the beginning part of the year, it can be very easy to have a big grandiose plan, have a bunch of levels to it and layers, and know exactly what that 100 day, that perfect day kind of looks like. But as soon as things don't feel as perfect, it's easy to just get off track with one thing, and then a whole bunch of other things just kind of slide down with that same momentum, that same kind of gravity, and it can be easy to go off track like that. So absolutely having that floor plan as well as your full plan. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, go back and check out episode 311, because it's a really good way to think about things and get off of that on-off perfectionist mentality that is so inherent in a lot of our day-to-day habits, especially when it comes to health and more specifically weight loss too, because diet culture is full of on-off, dogmatic kind of black and white thinking, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that episode and that comment really blends right into the on-off mentality, right? Like, what are your behavior patterns that lead to either fasting and weight loss success or lead to the opposite, stuck in being at a dreaded plateau, which is what we're going to be breaking down today. So 3 different categories here. We're going to be talking about the behavioral plateau. So what does that mean? So we're going to define it. We'll define all 3, then we'll go back and break them all down, and then we'll give you the action step to go get that fasting persona quiz. It's kind of like an archetype quiz where it'll give you, just in 3 to 5 minutes, it'll give you some really tangible action steps to do. Depending on which one of these buckets you fall into. And we'll give you some, live in the podcast episode today as well, some of the nuance that we love to do on these episodes. So behavioral plateau, these are the human pattern issues, subconscious pattern issues, not biology and physiological limits, but they drive the physiology in the wrong direction. So we're talking about behavioral things that we do, default behavioral patterns that then affect the physiology and don't allow us to get results. So those are the human pattern issues. The biological or physiologic plateaus, this is the second plateau bucket we're going to talk about today. These are the body's adaptive and hormonal responses to weight loss and fasting that constrain fat loss unless you're identifying them and addressing them.
And these tend to be the default thinking for most of us whenever we start running into a plateau, because it can also be the big like boogeyman of, is it going to be bad for my metabolism? Am I going to break my metabolism? And then as soon as I see the scale stop moving, it can be easy to go right back to that fear-laden thought, right?
Especially muscle loss too, right? Lean muscle tissue. With women fasting versus men, all of these. So these are the physiological considerations. So biological and physiological plateaus. So we'll unpack that. And then, so that's really when your hormones and metabolism or metabolic function are kind of pushing back and forth on your fasting decisions and your food decisions, right? So that just goes up. That kind of flows up to the behavioral stuff, the day-to-day action type stuff that we just talked about in that first bucket. And then here's one that, I don't know, man, this one just is all-encompassing in my mind because you can really put anything in this bucket.
Okay.
But
for better or worse.
Right. It's really the life logistic plateaus. So these are the external. These are the things you say yes to. These are the recurring conditions of your life that make consistent fasting-aligned behavior hard, regardless of that spousal intention, doctor intention, friend, family, invite to lunch, weekend opportunity intentions, right? All the external stuff. So we're going to be breaking these down, caregiving, social calendar, really the food environment, the holiday calendar, like all of that stuff. The logistical life stressor day-to-day, what kind of curveballs come at you. And if you've been in our challenges or been in our coaching, we call this the stoptagon. So we're going to unpack, those life logistical plateaus and give you some examples. And then the action step is going to be go to the website, grab the take the fasting persona quiz, and you'll get emailed daily action steps that you can do to help unpack these different plateaus. So, Tommy, I am, like I said, very excited about this because it's something we've been doing this for 5 years now. This is episode 320, I believe. I'm not looking at the
6 years. We just hit 6 years.
Oh my gosh. I lost a year. 6 years. So episode 320, like, how have we not talked about it in this way before? And this is truly what we believe is one of our superpowers, not to be self-aggrandizing. Like, how do you talk about fasting for that long? Isn't it pretty simple? Yeah, but application, it's not easy.
Sure.
Well, this is kind of a creative way for us to talk about it in a different way that just might resonate with you now or for the first time, or maybe not yet, but it's planting a seed of thinking about how you adapt a lifestyle to fasting as your foundation, right?
I love that you said the lifestyle. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
Because when we're getting away from the diet on-off mentality, it really is about the lifestyle, because we so often hear, I'm going to fast until I don't need to anymore, or until I get the weight off. And
what's the best fast?
Sure.
What's the best fast for maintenance? What's the best fast for fat loss? Well, there are some that we can recommend you, but it's how do you plan it and put it into your day-to-day where it doesn't feel like that restrictive diet mentality, right, Tommy?
Sure. Yeah, and even those times when, let's say, you need some longer fast, you have more weight that you want to get off, you need some time away from food for a little while, you have some blood sugar dysregulation issues that really start to respond well as you start to get past that 24 and that 30-hour mark. Even, those can feel restrictive in the moment, because obviously you're saying no to, eating more food in that moment. You're spending extended amounts of time without food coming in. So obviously there are some no's or some not yets right now. But the thing is, finding the balance points and those leverage points where we don't have to always just feel like we're saying no to everything,
Right.
and we don't have to feel like we're saying no forever, or like this fat loss phase is indefinite. That's another thing, because if it starts to feel just permanent, infinite, indefinite, then it really becomes very demotivating. And why would I want to build a lifestyle around that feeling right there? I absolutely wouldn't, right?
And that's why we call it fasting for life.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the initial like play on words, was like, yeah, it's not that fasting in the diet plan has become your life, right? But fasting gives you more life. It gives you that more flexibility to enjoy more things and live the life you truly deserve. So Tommy, let's get into the individual buckets. So we've got behavioral plateaus, the human pattern systems. We've got biological and physiological plateaus, the dreaded metabolism and muscle loss and all that stuff. And then we've got the life logistic plateaus, which are the external recurring conditions of your life that make consistent fasting aligned behavior hard, regardless of the external, right? That logistical intention of that person, that thing, that schedule, whatever it is. So, all right, so let's break down behavioral. Key behavioral drivers. Here we are. So anyone know what we say when we say slippage or fasting window creep? You set a timer. You say, I'm going to break my fast for dinner tonight. And next thing you know, well, you didn't break your fast at dinner. You broke it at 2 p.m. on the way home with a stop to get a rotisserie chicken. Or maybe a little snack at Starbucks, right? A little afternoon pick-me-up.
Sure.
Right? So, or maybe it's at night and you're going to eat your window and you do it successfully, nutrient-dense foods, but then the popcorn monster comes out a couple hours later, right? So now your window's open 4 hours later, and now don't really have a clean 16-8 or 24 or OMAD fasting schedule. And now you're pushing that later in the evening, which is going to create an insulin response, a less sensitive response to blood sugar, and that's going to affect your sleep and your growth hormone and fat mobilization. And then you're going to wake up with less willpower, more cravings, and more hunger the next day.
Yeah, because
so this concept of creep or slippage, right, Tommy?
Yeah, and I was going to say your fasting blood sugar when you woke up in the morning is going to be a bit higher than it should have been too. So you have that elevation that then is going to have a further insulin response later, and then you're going to feel that delta. You're going to feel that response where you're actually going to end up with blood sugar that goes that has a dip there afterwards too. So that morning lull, which we can chase with some caffeine, but if it gets bad enough, it can really kick up those hunger cravings too. And so you might find yourself breaking the next fast even sooner than you did the previous day, right? In your example. And so these kind of things, we talk about fast cycling, going from day to day to day with, let's say a maintenance level fasting, which, for me is somewhere around, let's say about 20 hours. I feel good at the 20-hour mark. 4-hour nutrition opportunity.
2 meal a day, right? Yep.
Yeah. Because I don't need 4 hours to just graze. I could blow past, my caloric needs, but more importantly, my insulin response would be greater than I have time to control the rest of the day. So I would see the scale ticking up. I won't feel as well. My energy will be lower. Brain fog will be higher, et cetera. So when we talk about these behavioral plateaus, think about it in more of a lifestyle stance where we're talking about fast cycling. We're cycling. We're linking one fast to the next, and one fast to my next food decision, my nutrition
fast
opportunity.
Stacking.
I'm stacking these fasts.
Yeah.
And just the decisions overall, because my food decisions and my decisions on my plate affect my next fast. And so if you think about it like that, then it's not always just about, man, I just need to string more 48 or more 72-hour fasts together. No, I need to get better more consistently, stringing my shorter fast together with better food choices more of the time, and I'll feel better. So the behavioral plateau kind of comes in when I'm either bored with my current method because I've just been doing the exact same thing over and over and over again without seeing a very exciting result. That's one way. So the results tend to slow down, like like let's say OMAD dinner, for example, is a big one. That's where, you know, we got a lot of our initial results, Scott, with some OMAD dinners.
Oh yeah.
But we realized, hey, you know, it doesn't work at the same pace forever for a couple of different reasons. You have less weight to lose, but also your habits tend to shift. Also, you can start off, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, like when I lost the 48 and a half pounds in 50 days.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was incredible. I didn't do a 48 and a half day fast or a 50-day fast, right? I was doing fast stacking, right? Shorter fast. I had one longer 5-day fast in the middle, or close to 5. I think it was 4.5 or 5. I can't remember. It's been so long, but yeah, the reality is, you know, I still want it because I was doing so much consistent fast stacking. I think I like that better than fast cycling. That might be a new thing. Anyway, you know, and I was feeling so great, like holy moly. But even my visual representation of my plate and portion size hadn't changed in 50 days.
Yeah.
So when I started opening up the windows again or sticking with OMAD a little bit longer, well, after that initial fat loss, it started to creep on the scale again. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because to your point, my subconscious, my choices, me as an individual still saw myself, you know, eating 2,600 calories a day, doing, 240 grams of protein and 160 carb and 140 fat, whatever my macros were back then.
Yeah.
But I was still like living in that world. So it was hard because it was starting to creep up, but I didn't really understand why yet in the moment.
You can even have different macronutrients or different parts of your plate or your lifestyle can also come into play here, where protein, for example, when you first start and you're highly motivated and you're wanting to get in more protein, or maybe you're used to, you know, maybe you've counted macros in the past or counted calories and macros in the past, and then you're very conscientious about how much protein you're bringing in. But over time, you know, if you were, trying to be lower carb and higher protein, and then over time that starts to kind of slip, maybe it's not as motivating, or maybe you want to experiment and bring in some more carbohydrates, it can get a little slippery, where now your macronutrient ratios are very different, and that's going to be less effective. It's not that carbs are bad, but at the same time, if you're bringing in more than you used to, it might slow down your results some. And so just being aware of that behavior and keeping your eye on the prize and continuing to do more of the things that were working really well means that the results are more likely to be more consistent. And you know, alcohol is the same way, although can even be to a greater extent, when you might have abstained from alcohol for a while, and then if you think about bringing more in at a later point, that can be one of the things that really severely slows down the fat mobilization process.
Yeah, and that's two of the other big buckets in this behavioral plateau.
Yeah.
It's the weekend off-plan cycle, right? The big carb alcohol weekends, the refilling of the glycogen stores, the increased water retention, the decreased sleep quality. You've got more insulin and blood sugar floating around, right? So the halfway point of the week is Thursday at 11 a.m., right? So if you're off half of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's really going to slow down your fasting effort. So you truly are intermittent fasting. You're fasting because there's more opportunity on the weekends. You're fasting, and this kind of bleeds into the third bucket as well a little bit. Like I mentioned, there's some overlap, but it's like you got more opportunity on the weekend. So the more indulgent foods, the more treat yourself type stuff, the more alcohol, the more opportunity. You're going to mask that fat loss on the scale and prolong the period before the body gets back into fat oxidation by having low insulin and low blood sugar with fasting. So, and you already mentioned the other one, which was under eating protein or just relying on fasting alone. This is another big behavioral plateau. And we just did a podcast episode last week on a 15-minute walking challenge, right? 15 minutes for 15 days. Post your biggest meal, carbiest meal, or latest meal of the day. Because that's adding in another tool belt or lever to tap into that non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So you're going to be able to, you're not just doing fasting alone, you're adding in another adjunct attack on how do we tap into our physiology, because when low protein drops, to your point, satiety hormones go down. It reduces your your non-exercise activity thermogenesis and or your training intensity or results from your training that you might be doing. So the body compensates by decreasing in the short term that total energy expenditure. So even if your fasting schedule looks great and you've been consistent, it might not be that you're doing anything wrong. We just need to tweak the fasting time and add another lever, right? So
yeah,
those are two of the big behavioral plateau buckets, the weekends and the protein, like you mentioned. So the last one is something we've already mentioned kind of inherently in the first couple of times in the behavioral plateau, is sleep and blue light and screens, right? And lack of morning sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
So late screen time, late sleep times, short sleep, not enough sleep, irregular bedtimes. That's going to tap your evening cortisol and next day hunger hormones to increase your cravings and make the adherence to your fasting window that much harder. So it looks like, oh man, I don't have any willpower to do this anymore. But that really then just shows up in the first thing we went over in this behavioral plateau bucket, which is the creep.
Yeah.
The slippage, the opening the window a little bit earlier, the keeping the window open a little bit late, the behavior on the weekends, the saying yes to things you know that don't serve you, not no forever.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of related into this, like, we just need some present time awareness on, why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing right now? Like, let's just pause for a moment and take a breath, right?
Yeah. And then when motivation is low, then that's when some of the behavioral changes can really kind of come in to get you. Because then it feels like, well, everything's not working so well, or it's starting to slow down. So then if willpower goes down, motivation comes down, then all of a sudden some more of that creep and the slippage can kind of, find its way in there because your guards are coming down. So making sure to like stay vigilant within the process, which for me really means like, especially if you're in a fat loss phase, let's say, for example, and you do find yourself in what looks like it might be a plateau on the scale, I like to look for some different metrics to start tracking a little bit. Like take a few measurements, grab an article of clothing or two that you're looking forward to and see how they're fitting, because some things might still be changing a little bit, even though it's not reflecting on the scale. And that's a really good thing. That's actually better. It would be better to be improving my body composition without necessarily just dropping weight on the scale, but I can't see that. So that allows me to combat some of that negative feedback from the scale.
Another behavioral plateau would be emotional relationship with food. We didn't have this one on our list initially, but your default behavior to go to food for comfort. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, bored, stressed, happy, right? Like we go to food to get that dopamine. So we need to really think about, that's what I was saying, present time awareness is like, am I doing it again? Wait, why am I doing this again? And we need to change the cue, not the action. And that's what the quiz will do, is it'll give you some really clear action steps on things you can work on. So from the behavioral plateau aspect, this is where your habits are quietly raising your insulin and area under the curve with your blood sugar, increasing your hunger and lowering your burn rate of the fat, ultimately moving the number on the scale. Let's move into the second bucket, Tommy. Okay. This is the biological and physiological plateau. So these are the body's adaptive and hormonal responses to weight loss. So some key physiological levers. Your body, we joke about this in coaching, is like your body has a 3-pronged temper tantrum approach to help you put the weight back on after you've lost it, or help you regain when you've hit a plateau.
Yeah, to maintain that balance, right?
To maintain that physiological balance. So we're not damaging our metabolism. Metabolism truly doesn't decrease in women until late 60s and men early 70s. So we don't have a decreased metabolism. We have hormonal and adaptive responses that are governing the output or the burn of the nutrition that you're bringing in and the opportunity to tap into those fat stores. So we've got a defend, restore, prevent 3-pronged approach of like a survival mode from when your body kicks in and goes, yeah, I know what you're trying, but not today. Not today, Satan. Not happening, right? Like, so this is that adaptive thermogenesis. So your body defends that newer weight by slowing down the output, right? We may see changes, short-term day-to-day changes with T3 or T4, thyroid hormone, sympathetic tone, how you're handling stress. The same fasting window that you did, months ago when you got some good results isn't getting you that same result that you expected.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's going to make weight gain more efficient. And Dr. Lane BioLane talks about this in his Fat Loss Forever book. It's like, what are you going to do? What's the diet after the diet? Like,
Exactly.
Are you happy with what you're doing, and can you keep doing it? Because to become part of that 5% that keeps it off once and for all, we have to know that there are some hormonal changes that we need to look into to make sure that you're not chronically tired, that you're not chronically hungry, that your performance is good, that your libido is good, that your sleep's good, that your mindset's good, right? So these are some of the signs and symptoms of that thermal change, which directly leads to the changes in ghrelin, leptin, and set point, right, Tommy?
Yeah, and one of the things that comes along with the actual adaptive physiological changes is just the fact that you, during a fat loss phase, especially at the, more towards the beginning, or when you have the most weight to lose, things are changing. They're able to kind of change quickly. We can become conditioned to expect more quick changes.
I knew where you were going. Say it again.
Right?
I just totally stepped on you.
We can really become conditioned to expect more quick changes, but we should understand that as we burn through some of those excess fat stores, things have to slow down, and the margin of the difference, the insulin and caloric difference between what we're bringing in when we're fasting, or when we're breaking our fast, essentially when we're having our nutrition opportunity, versus what we're actually burning through. So this would be our caloric deficit and our insulin deficit at the same time. These are going to determine how quickly we might actually see fat reduction reflected on the scale. And so that's going to have to slow down over time. So if that is demotivating for us, we have to be prepared for that. And we also have to understand that if I needed 2,000 calories per day 20 pounds ago, I might only need 1,880 now. And whatever the number is, it doesn't matter. It's lower. And so then over time, even if we're eating the exact same amount, the exact same quality food, good nutrients, we're prioritizing protein, we essentially have a bit less of an opportunity for a caloric deficit. And we can't create more hours in the day. So we're also going to still have the same opportunity to reduce insulin levels across the day. So keeping that in mind, that the numbers the changes should slow down over time, and that's not a bad thing.
They'll get incrementally smaller as you have less to lose.
Absolutely. And so that's just going to require a bit more patience over time, expecting that we're playing the long game here, not the short game. And then also understanding that cortisol and stress are a big part of this too. And our stress response actually goes up as we get greater and greater into longer fasting hours. So understanding that, because we can feel like, oh man, if I just get another 48 or another 72-hour fast, that's going to be moving the needle. The tricky part is that's a greater stress response too. And so actually our efficiency for that fast actually goes down as the number of hours goes up. So we kind of have a sweet spot and a return on investment for our time that starts to be like a diminishing returns as the number of hours goes up. So keeping that in mind too, right, Scott?
Yeah, so if I would just say it this way, these biological plateaus, this is like when your hormones and metabolic function are pushing back, and how to respond without just fasting harder.
Yes.
Right? Like I just got to do a 72 hour. That's why in our coaching, we don't recommend very often really going over that 48-hour mark for any general reason.
Sure.
Now, during the challenges, yes, we do, because people like to push their windows. We like to support them through that.
Yeah.
But it's not a long-term sustainability method to fasting. We need to start to think about what maintenance is going to look like. So, and give your body time from this biological, physiological, hormonal plateau bucket to respond and adapt, right?
Yeah, and we need to be making food opportunities. We need to be making food choices as well that sustain the long-term lifestyle too.
And there's another small bucket here that I'll just mention briefly, but there are considerations with certain medications that will also slow this process down.
Sure.
Personally, it was steroid use for my severe asthma in my teenage years.
Yeah.
So they will absolutely cause short-term and eventually, depending on how long you're on them, long-term insulin resistance.
Yep.
In your liver, in your body. So definitely a consideration. And things like antibiotics, they're going to wreak havoc on your blood sugar when you're sick and you're taking over-the-counter things and antihistamines. So if you have a concern with that, just talk to your doc and be like, hey, like, is this, I'm really trying to lose weight. Is there anything here? Or you could probably just go to, one of the AIs now or Google and look up like, what are the side effects of this? And is this inhibiting my path and my plan? So I didn't want to leave that out because it's more of a personal consideration, but it is something to think about if you're stuck in this, possibly thinking that you're in this biological, physiological plateau category.
Yeah, that's a great point, because even if you're going along, fasting's good, food choices are good, things are humming along, and all of a sudden you find yourself needing to take one of these medications, then absolutely it could set you back a little bit temporarily, or it can really severely slow down your progress, or end up changing the way that you're making food decisions, like kicking up your cravings a lot too, messing with your leptin ghrelin balance and things like that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep. All right. Third bucket, life logistic plateaus, aka the Stoptagon. Research from Marie Spreckley and her team. There are 4 main categories of things that derail your progress long term to become part of the 5% of people that lose the weight and keep it off past the 2 to 3 year mark. Here we go. These are the recurring conditions, external environment, aka of someone's life that make consistent fasting aligned behavior hard, regardless of that external intention. Being a person or the environment that you're in. So here are the core elements, really trying to keep them like not overlapping so much into the first 2 buckets, but the literal time architecture of your week. Shift work, rotating schedules if you're a nurse, if you're a teacher, in and out of school, right? We have a coaching client, Shane, shout out, who coaches. When he's in coaching season, totally different, like baseline threshold of what we can accomplish when stress gets up and stress gets high, right?
Yeah, and not to mention that one affects his energy expenditure, his cravings, his day-to-day calendar. Yeah, right. Day-to-day calendar, as well as just how many obligations there are. And they're good, they're enjoyable obligations, but at the same time, they do affect those opportunities, those social interactions, the kind of pressure, all of that kind of stuff.
So we've got rotating schedules, like we just mentioned, early morning or late evening commutes here in Houston. That's a huge one. You get home at 8 p.m. and the kids are there and you got to eat and you just, maybe you're going through a life change with having your kids on weekends versus during the weeks. Maybe there's a stressful, life event that's going on. Late night kid routines. Tommy, you're living that right now.
Oh yeah.
Right. I've got 9, 6, and 3, about to be 9, 7, 4, and 7, 9, 7, and 4. Like, yeah, you never know. Like, yeah, you could have bouts of where erratic sleep and meal timing just feels out of your control.
Sure.
And the reality is, it's not you. It's the plateau. Is that the calendar literally doesn't support a stable fasting or fast stacking lifestyle. So what do you do in that moment, right? Well, we talk about planning and pivoting. So like, if this is like a minimum standard of excellence week, right? Where like, you just got to give your minimum, you only have 50% to give and you give all 50%. Well, guess what? You gave 100%. So knowing that these life logistic plateaus can show up and you might not realize it, that it's the situations around you that are governing your ability to fulfill the plan that you've put in place for you. And that's okay. You just got to strategize, right?
Yeah. And I think it starts with being realistic and honest with yourself. As far as what's affecting, because we like to think, hey, no, I could just fast my way out of this. I could just fast harder, like you said earlier, or I could just do more. Man, if I just joined the gym, if I just exercise more, I'd probably, undo it. At the same time, there are seasons and there are external factors that can't really just be out fasted or out exercised.
Like the season you're in right now with your little one, right?
Right. So, for that example specifically, sleep is the big one. It's hard for me to get more than about 6 hours and 20 minutes these days, just from, compression of like obligations and just how things go. So what I have been focusing on is I've probably cut my number of dinners down by about 75%.
Protect the sleep.
Yeah. And I've probably cut alcohol use by about 90 to 95%. And I've also made sure that in the evening time, I take at least about 15 to 20 minutes for myself, depending on how I feel, to do some sort of deliberate exercise during that time, because it really just kind of helps me get into a better pre-sleep state, and so I can transition into my sleep faster, so that any bit of sleep time that I can get, I'm using as efficiently as possible. So I've been tracking my sleep efficiency lately, and that's my lever to pull right now. But what I wanted to say also was that on this life logistics plateau, if you find yourself, you know, feeling like some of these factors are what might be getting you, just be honest with yourself. Is this a more temporary kind of thing, or is this a little more elongated, or is this a longer term kind of season thing? Because it can be really helpful to say, okay, if this is, for the week or for the month, hey, maybe this is just a time for me not to be so focused on fat loss, but maybe my 100%, like the 50% that you can give example, Scott, would be momentary maintenance. Maybe if I just maintained a level of control.
I can just maintain right now.
Yes. Just
That's
tread the water.
okay.
That's okay. You've just paused the fat loss process, but you've also temporarily shifted into, this is my lifestyle. I want to maintain here, because what's the alternative? Alternative is I could backslide. I could regain more of the weight and then have to redo that progress. That's so much worse. Let me just momentary maintenance this right now. And whether that's a week or a month, and it could be longer too. And that's okay too. You can always reassess this, but I think it starts with just being honest with yourself.
I mean, man, ain't that the truth, right? So there's a couple here that I want to get into, and then we'll wrap up with the action step. Going and taking that fasting persona quiz. It'll give you direct emails into your inbox on things you can work on. Hopefully you're getting nuggets out of this too, because this is stuff we love to talk about. This is stuff we talk about in coaching inside of the challenges. But another big bucket in this one is the life logistics plateau is the food environment. So constant access to break room and other people's behaviors from bucket number one. Yeah. Right. Or constant travel. Or maybe you have a partner that cooks late and you're on off schedules. Food trucks, Taco Tuesdays, happy hours with the work crew. Like the food environment, the obesogenic food environment that we live in, is part of this logistic, potential plateau creator. Right? So we need to be aware of the food environment. So the biggest thing on this one is the awareness of the food environment. If you've got constant access or have a family member or a loved one or a spouse or someone that kind of operates on the opposite schedule or loves to cook or something, we gotta really hone in on what does my food environment look like, right? Because if you turn on the TV or the Super Bowl's coming up. Right, when we're recording this, it'll be this weekend. So this podcast will come out right after it. Shoot, there's actually I think it's DoorDash, or I can't remember if it's DoorDash or whichever. It's one of the food delivery services that literally has a marketing campaign where Matthew McConaughey is sitting in a car and he's literally just like saying food, 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 food. And then the marketing campaign is like, well, the NFL isn't all about food, but go eat. Right? Because all it is food advertising, right? Or Taco Bell, late night, like the food environment that we live in. I probably did a horrible job at explaining that what's the word I'm looking for? The commercial.
It looks like Uber Eats.
Uber Eats. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, DoorDash. Get out of here. So the food environment's big. And then your social calendar, cultural things. Yeah. Like I mentioned, the weekly happy hour, sports watching. I kind of overlap the two here. Church potlucks, kids' birthday events. That social rhythm is just filled with weekly landmines. They're always in the same place. They might change color, shape, or time of day, right? But those are always, the landmines are still there, right? Yeah. And finally, the responsibility load. So maybe you're a caregiver of a loved one now, or your loved one had a surgery, or you're going through something, or maybe you have multiple jobs or high demand roles or business travel, right? So there's so many different things that can fill into this life logistic bucket, but you've got goals, right? You've got things you want to do. So really here, it's truly about putting up boundaries that put you in the primary position.
Mhm.
Especially in that caregiving role. You can't care if you're floundering. Or maybe you
Yeah.
can in the short term, but not for the long term.
That's a great point. I mean, when you feel like you're on track and when you're physiologically on track, you have more to give. Your energy is more consistent. You feel like you're showing up more authentically you, and that means you can take care of others even better because if I know how
I
stressful it
see
can
this
be.
so often in families and in my
Yeah.
family too, man.
Yeah. It can feel like, man, just everything's kind of outside of my control. So I haven't been, very conscientious or intentional about my food choices. And so then I'm not really setting my fasting timer, and it can all just kind of slip. And
Yep.
I know we've all been there. And if you haven't, at some point you probably will. But the thing about those times is that if you can just take a moment of honest reflection and say, am I showing up the way I want to? Or would I be more like myself, a better version of myself, if I took a little bit of control over some of those things? If I just said, you know what, I want to be the best caregiver that I can be, or the best husband or father that I can be in this moment, and this is a tough time, then how could I do that? I could probably do that by being a little bit more intentional with my fasting time, making one or two fasting decisions, one or two better food decisions, and I will be a better me. And that's going to be better for everybody involved, right?
Yep, absolutely. So, how do we kind of wrap up the episode and frame it for you? Well, the behavioral really is what you do. The biological, physiological is how your body's adapting to what you're doing. And the life logistics is literally the game board you're playing on.
Yeah, or what's being done to you or like around you.
Yeah.
Almost like, yeah.
Right? So we've got behavioral, biological, physiological, life logistical, right? So when we're looking at this, like, how do we wrap it up? Well, go grab the link to the fasting persona quiz. You'll get some direct emails into your inbox on things you can work on depending on where you are in terms of this plateau bucket.
Yeah.
And if you're really truly wondering where you're at, like, go do the quiz, 3 to 5 minutes. It's going to help you identify that type and get you a clear step based off the framework of this podcast on really what bucket is in the primary driver right now. Don't try to do all 3 buckets, right? Unless the same thing shows up in all 3, but really hone in on one once you can identify it, because I truly believe it's going to move the needle, Tommy.
Yeah, I really think it will for a lot of folks. So I think that making your next fasting decision, like you said, Scott, see which one of these is kind of seems to be in the primary position right now, which one is kind of getting you most often, and let's focus on that one, because when we try to split our focus too many ways, then like if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. It just kind of dilutes our efforts. So let's choose one and hone in there, and then realize that the effort that we put there is probably going to lead to the fastest, most helpful improvements in the short run, and then we can continue to build upon that, right? As we internalize some of those new changes. So I think there's going to be a lot of good to come out of some of the conversations and some of the thought processes after this, and we absolutely want to hear from you. So like, what did you do? What did you decide to put into play after this episode, and how is that working for you? Send us an email, leave it in a 5-star review. That will be a great way to to kind of share the story with others, and then we might share that on an upcoming pod too.
Yep, absolutely. So head to the show notes, grab the quiz, get those down, digest what we just went through, identify your primary bucket. Let's rock and roll. Happy fasting, Tommy. As always, man, I appreciate the conversation, and we will talk soon.
Thank you. Bye. So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.